Let's talk about the principle of bracing and its use for maximizing muscle hypertrophy. Most of us will definitely have seen examples of the use of bracing in the gym. So what is bracing? Bracing is essentially the use of pads, benches or fixed points of support in order to generate more force in the target muscle that we're trying to work. So to illustrate how bracing works in practice, let me provide you a couple of examples. So the first example that I'm sharing with you is a single arm chest supported hammer strength row. Now this is actually a bit of a unique kind of variation of this movement. Of course it's a perfectly good exercise just to do seated with your chest against the pad using both arms. What I kind of like about the standing single arm one is a couple of things. You can get the bracing from the chest like you would expect, so the antagonist muscle. You can utilize your foot, so when you're standing you can essentially push your foot into, there's a kind of like essentially a beam that runs across the bottom of the machine, so you can press your foot into that, and that actually helps to increase bracing as well. And then what I also do is I adjust the seat so that my back leg is actually also leaning against the seat as well, so that the seat kind of sits just above my knee. So why is that advantageous to say doing just say a single arm dumbbell row? Now, single arm dumbbell row or single arm row is perfectly fine in its own right. And it's definitely something that you probably want to put more towards the beginning of a session. However, with the single arm machine row, common compensations that we see people do with any form of row is they'll rotate through the thoracic, or they'll use a lot of momentum, they'll throw their chest back. The thing with this variation is that it really kind of forces you to utilize no momentum. All of the force that you generate is just coming through that target muscle. So the use of bracing, especially in the kind of mid to later part of your session, is just really great for minimizing any rotation, minimizing any momentum or unnecessary force or dissipation of force into other muscle groups that you maybe don't want. It also allows me to get a great alignment profile of my joints, and it also allows me to direct all of that force into just that one side rather than spreading it across both sides. Second example would be the 45-degree extension bench. Now, one of my favorite exercises for glutes and for hamstrings. Definitely can also be used for the erectors, the lower back. What I like about the 45-degree bench, and the same would be for the GHD, is that you actually have 2 points of bracing, of support. So you essentially have the calves pressing back against the lower pad. You could actually argue there's actually 3 in this, because you've actually got the foot pad as well. So you've got your essentially feet pressing down into the main sled pad, then you've got your calves pressing back into the lower pads, and then you've got your quads pressing down into the upper pad. So if you're able to really drive your feet down into one pad, calves back against the other, and really push your quads into the top pad, in that situation, then depending on if you're wanting to work your lower back or glutes, you can really focus and hone in on directing all of your force, contractile force, into that target muscle. Now again, kind of bringing it back to that conversation around function, if absolutely you should be able to feel your glutes, hamstrings, etc. when you're doing things like deadlifts, barbell RDLs, dumbbell RDLs, like, free weight based movements, etc. And certainly for your core and for your own body, you have to create your own level of bracing. However, and like I said, if you want to get in more volume when you're already fatigued, or in a lot of scenarios that I encounter is that people are struggling to utilize the correct target muscles that they're aiming for in an exercise, then this is where the use of machines, or for example in this case the 45-degree bench, is a great way of really pinning things down and getting someone to really learn how to disassociate other body parts and really just hone in on that target area, in this case the glutes and hamstrings. Now these are just purely 2 examples, but there are, I mean, where would you even start? Like, so many examples where you can utilize the principle of bracing to really get the most out of your hypertrophy based movements. Now, one of my favorite ways of getting or achieving bracing is if you have a training partner. So we had a friend over from the UK just a week or so ago, Simon, and we did an arm session together, and it was actually fantastic to be able to, for example, if I was doing my bicep exercise, for him to be able to press against the back of my triceps, and me having that cue of really, as I'm curling up, pushing the back of my arm against his hand, because then that then allows me to apply all of my force into the bicep rather than losing it by putting my elbow forward, so flexing at the shoulder, or dropping my elbow, my shoulder back into extension. So there's definitely plenty of uses. Manual support is a fantastic application if you have a training partner. So it's just a very, very, very small intro to the concept of bracing. If you want more examples of the use of bracing, let me know in the comments below. Bracing is also a concept that I will be covering in much, much more detail in my first course for coaches here in Dubai, which will be announced for some time in March. So keep your eyes out for that. We'll cover a lot of things like bracing, alignment. We'll get into things like programming, periodization. I'm really, really excited about that course. Like I said before, all feedback welcome. Like, share, bookmark this post. Any feedback, suggestions in the comments below. Thanks guys, till next time.